Hi, my name is Ida. This is actually my first video. I've been thinking about starting a channel for almost 2 years, I think, but I haven't really felt ready. But then a few days ago I came across this tag, Get to Know Your Witches, and I thought that would actually make a good starting video because I get to talk a little bit about myself, and it'll be like an introduction, I guess. This tag was started by Little Cosmic Crow, so big shout out to Little Cosmic Crow for a really great initiative. Yeah, I think I'll just get started, I guess, and see what happens. The first question, I have questions on a piece of paper. Does your sun sign portray you correctly? I'm not that into astrology, but I know I'm a Scorpio, that's my sun sign, and I have done some research about what that usually means, and I feel that it matches my personality pretty well, and it's also when people talk to me about how they perceive me, that also sounds pretty Scorpio-ish. So I think it does. Yeah. What songs bring you the most magical vibes? This is a really difficult question. I listen to a lot of music, but most of it isn't very witchy. There is a song called Scarborough Fair. I think initially it was old folk song, and then back way before I was even born, Simon and Garfunkel recorded it, and I really like their version. It is a really witchy song. So that's one. There is also a song called Toxic Blood. It's actually made by a Norwegian band called Kaiser's Orchestra. They don't play together anymore, but the music of course is still there. It's not witchy per se, but it has I like the sound, and it's the lyrics are a bit weird and strange, and it makes me feel witchy when I hear it. So that would be another one. Question number 3. Which ones of your deities, guides or ancestors is most sarcastic with you? And if that doesn't apply, which deck? I don't get a lot of sarcasm in my practice. Odin is my patron, and he can be a bit sarcastic sometimes. But I think that's it, really. I have a tendency to be the sarcastic one, I think. Which was the biggest witchy mess up or misinterpretation? Been so many. I think maybe it took me a very, very long time to realize that Odin was my patron. I worked a lot with the Old Norse pantheon. Being Swedish, that made a lot of sense to me. But I worked mostly with a lot of goddesses. And my view of Odin was for many, many years that he was, a bit of an asshat. But then, and I didn't want anything to do with him at all, like, no. But then I met him in a meditation, and we had a chat, and I wasn't really very keen, but he sort of proved to me that he's really not that bad, and then, he became my patron eventually, and it was more. He didn't force me. It was up to me to walk away, but it was very much on his initiative. that was a bit of a mess up or misinterpretation, I guess, that I was like, don't want anything to do with that dude. And then he turned out to be my patron. Would you write a book about your craft of spirituality? Yes, I would. I love writing. I write a lot, and I have done since I learned how to write. So I definitely would. It would be a wonderful project. I have a lot of things written down already, and it would be cool to compile that and edit that and turn it into a book with, added some new things that I haven't written so much about yet. So I definitely would. It might come someday, who knows. If someone wanted to summon you to their circle, what 5 items would you need? Chocolate, definitely. That might actually be enough. Just, really good chocolates, and I'll be there. Other than that, plants, some nice flowers would be really great. Art, a nice piece of art, or art supplies so I can make my own art would definitely get my attention. I'm not sure you can call an animal an item, but a cute cuddly animal would really also do it. I think that was only 4. I'm not sure I can think of anything else. Really, some good music. Some witchy music, yeah. If you were a ghost, what place would you haunt? I'd rather not be a ghost. But I guess my summer house and the area around my summer house, my family has a really lovely summer house in the country. It's close to the sea, and there are a lot of really beautiful woods around, and fields, and it's where a lot of my ancestors came from, so I have that ancestral connection to. I feel very connected to that place. It's where I feel most at home, and it's where I long to be. So I think if I became a ghost, that's probably where I wanted to hang out with my ancestors. What is the funniest way someone has reacted to finding out that you're a witch? There was this time I was doing ritual with some friends, and it was near when one of my friends lived. So there were people moving around in the area, and we were on this, I don't really know what to call it. It was not really a hill, it was more like a mound. It looks like one of these ancient mounds. I'm not sure if it is ancient, but we were on there and doing our witchy thing, and suddenly a guy comes climbing up this mound, or whatever you want to call it, and he goes, "Are you witches?" And we, "Yes, we are." And he's like, "Are you really?" "Oh, yeah, we are." "Seriously though, are you really witches?" And yeah, we are. And he kept several times, and it was like he couldn't quite believe it. And it was funny because he clearly knew enough to recognize us as witches, and yet he it was kind of hard to tell what he felt about that, like if he was freaked out, or if he thought it was really cool, or he just couldn't believe it. It was a really strange reaction, and because it was someone none of us knew. It was just a random guy, but that was the funniest way. Do you have any superstitions? Yes, I do. that I can think of from the top of my head. I don't like to put keys on the table. And I do the knock on wood thing. You know, I don't want to jinx anything by not knocking on wood. And they laugh at me at work for this, because I have the kind of job where you're really happy and really grateful if things are calm and quiet. And if we have one of those occasions when things are calm and quiet and someone says something about that, like, oh, this is so nice now, and I almost compulsively have to knock on something, like the desk or wherever where I am, to make sure it stays nice and calm and quiet and all hell doesn't break loose, because sometimes at my work hell does break loose. It's a great job, but you know, shit happens there sometimes. If you could possess any fantasy magic, what power would it be? This is also a really difficult question. I think maybe it would be nice to be able to like move things around with just the power of your mind. Not so much because I'm lazy and don't want to have to get up and move things, but I think of it more like it would make me feel very safe. Not like I walk around and feel afraid, really, but it would be a good protection, because if someone were to do something with you, you could just, you know, fly something around and they would leave you alone, probably. And also, if someone were to attack you, you could hurl something at them. You know, you'll be able to protect yourself, and you'll be able to, but mostly, you know, the idea of being able to scare people into leaving you alone without having to actually use violence. But also it would be fun, it would be a fun party trick, I guess. What is something random on your altar? I don't really have anything random on my altar. Things that are there for a reason. I have, this is the coolest thing I have on my altar. I think it's cool because I'm a nerd, everyone else might not. This is a stone axe head, which my great granddad found on an island where he grew up. It's near to our summer house. We don't really know. He should have, of course, handed it into a museum, but he didn't. So no expert has looked at it, so we don't really know, you know, when it's from. And I guess when I got it, I should have handed it in, but by then it had been in our family for generations. So I just thought I'd hang on to it. I really love it. It's an ancestor thing. And it's just wonderful. And it's not a very rare in terms of, you know, archaeology and stuff. It's not a very rare thing. I see them in museums all the time. So it would probably just end up in a basement somewhere, even if I did hand it in. And it's not in its archaeological context. You know, it was removed. And we don't know exactly the point where it was at. So there's not a lot of information, you know, they would be able to get from looking at it anyway. So I'm just going to hang on to it. It's the coolest thing on my altar. If one of the YouTubers you wanted, no, of course not. If one of the YouTubers you watched was a genie and they could grant you 3 wishes within their power, who would it be and what wishes? There are so many really wonderful YouTubers out there that I watch. that I learn so much from, and that I get so much inspiration from, so I really can't choose. I think I just say like, whoever wants to be my genie is welcome, and I'll just take it from there and see what they might have to offer me. I hope that's an okay answer. If you could instantly become an expert of any part of your craft or spirituality, what would it be? There are so many things that I want to be an expert in. Seid is one. I guess most English speakers would say Seider or something like that. The sort of Old Norse magical oracle system. I do practice it in my own kind of way. I've done some research. The sources don't give a lot of information, but I've done some researches and I looked at what other people do. But it's, you know, you can always learn more, and it's something that takes a long time to master. So if I could just get it like this, it would be nice. Another thing would be chaos magic, which I've looked into lately, and which the ideas of chaos magic really speaks to me. So that would be nice. Also healing, especially like herbalist, that kind of healing. I am a nurse, and I became a nurse because I viewed that also as being a healer, but with conventional methods. I work in an emergency department, and I feel that my job it's part of my spirituality. But I've also been, I love plants. I've also been interested in herbalism, and I've been, dabbling. But it would be nice to be like a real expert on that too. Yeah. When you die, what do you think will happen to you and your soul? I have no idea. There are a lot of ideas about what might happen when you die that speaks to me. Obviously, I do have an ancestor practice. So one way or the other, I think that when you die, you will become an ancestor, but I'm not sure that is the full story. I think reincarnation really speaks to me, or the idea of going somewhere else that is really nice, like if you want to call it the Summerland or Valhalla or whatever. Also very nice ideas. I also like the idea that, you know, whatever you think will happen, because that gives you the power to decide for yourself, and that kind of power and autonomy is very appealing, I think. There is a part of me that also feel like what would make most sense though is that at some point or the other, what happens to your soul is similar to what happens to your body. Like, it will decay, and other life forms will use the parts to nourish themselves and to live. That is what, I don't know, that makes the most sense, but it's, you know, I would prefer if I could live on one way or the other. Really, it's more comforting, I guess. But definitely something ancestor for a while at least. Where do you see yourself, spirituality, in the next 5 years? That would tie back to what I would like to become an expert in instantly if I could. I would like to, I hope that in 5 years I am a better Seid worker, that I'm more proficient in chaos magic and in herbalism. But again, there are so many things. Also, I've been going through a lot of changes, spirituality, in the last 2 years, and I've been experimenting a lot. I've been trying a lot of new things and thinking a lot about how I actually see the world, how I actually want to practice. And it would be nice if I could sort of, if that could be, you know, a bit consolidated, like I have a practice and this is what I do and this is how I do it, and get into a good routine. Not so much because, you know, it's not that I don't want to stop evolving and developing, but to have something that is a bit stable and a bit more familiar, because I've been doing this for about 10 years and it's been like a pretty constant evolution up until about 2 years ago or something, and then there were a lot of changes, and I'd like to sort of get back to this more stable and steady development. I think that was the last question. But if you like this video, please subscribe. As I said, I have a non-witchy job, so I'm not sure exactly how regularly I'll be able to post. So if you subscribe, you'll know when I posted something new. Also, if there's anything in particular you want to hear me talk about, please let me know. I have a huge list of things I want to talk about, but it's always nice to know what other people might want to hear, if anything at all should happen to see this and take an interest. Please let me know. I think that's actually it. So if you watch this, thank you so much for taking the time.